right, hello and welcome to Hollywood Blockbusters, or in this case, Halloween Blockbusters.
Yes.
And I am your host with the most, Joe Halloween, and I'm joined by Andrew Walker.
Hello.
And classing up this spooky joint is Robert Butler. Thanks for joining us again.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be on.
Yes. Thank you for coming, Rob.
All right, and we are live on Facebook, so if you want to get in on the conversation, feel free to post questions or comments on Facebook. Today's sort of a free-for-all. We're calling it our Halloween party, and we're just going to talk about some of our favorite Halloween movies and things we've watched. Maybe this year that you just wanted to get around to and check off your list, and pretty much anything goes today. So just last night, we're going to get obscure here. Just last night, I was in the mood to watch something that maybe not a lot of people are aware of. Way back in 1985, and this is a TV movie, which is something we don't talk about a lot here on this podcast. We normally stick to theatrical releases. But in 1985, on November 1st, which was the day after Halloween, ABC aired a little movie called The Midnight Hour. Are you guys familiar with it at all?
No?
I've heard of it, never saw it though. I'm aware of it though. Yes.
Yeah, and so it has a pretty great cast for the time when you think about it. So its main star in it is Sherry Belafonte, who's the daughter of Harry Belafonte. And a little footnote that I learned while I was looking up trivia while watching the movie is that in a movie where she's supposed to be playing a high school student, she was 31 at the time, which it kind of goes along with Grease, where most of the actors in Grease were in their 20s and 30s when they made that movie.
And not like this last season of Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Those kids are like,
They probably have kids of their own, but yeah.
I think the oldest, Joe Keery, I think he's like 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Joining Sherry Belafonte is LeVar Burton, Peter DeLuise, who is the son of Dom DeLuise. And can you name what 80s TV series he used to be on?
I know he was in that movie Fatso, but I don't remember the shows that he was on.
Yeah.
Was he?
Yeah. He was on 21 Jump Street with Johnny Depp. He
was he?
kind of
Okay.
his partner, his buddy.
John DeLuise.
So there's some
Peter DeLuise.
there's some
Yeah.
Nepo babies on this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Lee Montgomery played the lead character on there. Dee Dee Pfeiffer, talk about famous families. She has a famous sister,
Michelle.
Michelle. Yeah. And there's an actress on there I've never seen in any other thing. She doesn't even have a picture on IMDb, but she's done soaps and stuff. But there's an actress named Jonna Lee, Jonna, who played Sandy, the cheerleader from the 1950s, who among all the other inhabitants of the grave, the cemetery, she was this cute cheerleader who climbed out of her grave. And the premise of the movie is that these high school students go into a cemetery and they recite this incantation, and little do they know that it worked, and people climb out of their grave sites and mausoleums and everything, and wreak havoc on the small town that they're from. Which was interesting. As the movie started, I recognized it immediately, the small town. It's when I was in L.A. a couple of months ago, I toured Warner Brothers, and they have this gazebo, which has been featured in a lot of things, including the Gilmore Girls, which a lot of people who are fans of that show would recognize. But I instantly recognized the town as the town square at Warner Brothers, which was kind of cool. And so these zombies and stuff climb out of the graves and terrorize the town. But when you look at the makeup of the zombies, most of the zombies, some look human, some look like zombies. I read that a lot of that makeup effect was done by the same people who did Thriller, Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Cool.
And Thriller had just come out just a couple of years before this movie. So they clearly were trying to capitalize on the popularity of Thriller. And as a matter of fact, for reasons I can't explain, halfway through the movie, they break into a choreographed dance number, which is so bizarre. I'm
So
like,
abrupt.
What is happening here?
Like Thriller.
Yeah, exactly. They clearly were taking a page from that book. But it's a really entertaining movie. Kurtwood Smith, just about 2 years before he was in RoboCop, and then later he was on the Dad on that 70s show.
Yeah.
He plays a police officer in it. And it has a really great soundtrack. They have, I don't know what they paid to get the license for these songs, but they had music, of course, the title song, Midnight Hour, and Bad Moon Rising, and all these cool, Halloween type songs that they played. And like American Graffiti, these songs were sort of tied together by Wolfman Jack, who was introducing the songs throughout the movie. You never see him, but you hear his distinctive voice, and he's perfect for this movie,
Right.
So it was a blast, and, it's a TV movie. I just can't help but wonder that if they had a theatrical release with a big budget, what this movie could have been. But for a TV movie, it was a lot of fun. So if you want to see it, believe it or not, it's free on YouTube.
Oh, cool.
And after watching the YouTube version last night, I found out that there's a remastered version that I could have watched that I wasn't aware of. But if you want to check it out, if you're looking for some family-friendly Halloween fun, check out the Midnight Hour on YouTube for free.
Now,
Bring it up on your HD TV.
Maybe I missed this when you started talking about. Did you see this when it originally came out?
I did, and
Okay.
I remember really loving it when it first aired, but it's been a long, long time since I saw
What
it.
station was it on at the time?
I think it was
NBC?
ABC.
ABC?
Yeah, it aired on ABC the day after Halloween and was a pretty big
Wow.
hit.
Surprised they didn't do it the day before.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I guess they considered it part of the Halloween
Right,
weekend,
right.
I guess. So that was kind of an obscure movie that I had fun revisiting. That came out, or that was aired in 1985. And by sheer coincidence, another movie that I watched that also came out in 1985, I just watched it about a week or so ago, was the movie House, which I don't know if a lot of horror fans today are familiar with or remember the movie House. It stars William Catt of American's Greatest Hero. What's it called? American Greatest Hero? Is that the name of the show? Why am I drawing a blank on that? The comic relief is provided by George Wendt of Cheers fame, Richard Mall of Night Court fame, and there's this beautiful actress in there named Mary Staven who I guess had comparisons to Farrah Fawcett when she was at her
blonde
peak.
hair.
Yeah, absolutely stunning. Now, I like visiting filming locations, so out of curiosity, after watching House, I looked up to see if that house, whether it was on a back lot or if it was in some subdivision or whatever, and to my surprise, it is still standing at 329 Melrose in Monrovia, California, and looks exactly the same as it did in the movie. So
wow.
I'm going to have to add that to my travels and see if I can track down that house. Now, a couple of years ago, I got to meet the star of House and Greatest American Hero. That's the name of the show I was trying to come up with. But William Catt was the star of this movie. And not only was he in House, but his career was kicked off with a little movie called Carrie. You remember him in Carrie?
Okay.
So I got to talk to him about that. Let's take a listen.
Of course, your career was kick-started with Carrie. What did that particular role mean to you?
You know, that was a seminal film for Brian De Palma, and I was just lucky enough to be amongst the cast that all had careers as a result of that film, you know.
I think one of the most underrated horror movies ever made was House. Do you agree with that?
I don't know so much if it was underrated. I mean, because all these years later, people have very fond memories of that film. I remember when we did it, though, it was just wonderful to work with the great George Wendt and Richard Mall and Steve Miner, who was the brilliant director, and it was largely due to his sense of humor that film was so successful.
So if you haven't seen House, it's family-friendly fun. There's some genuine scary moments in the movie, some really great practical effects and
spectacles
makeup, and
The ghoul coming out of the closet.
Yeah.
That was an effective moment. Yeah.
Yeah, there were some really great moments in
Yeah.
that. And
I haven't seen it. Every time I come across House, it's a horror Japanese film from the 70s.
Well,
Right.
that's what it was when you brought that up. I instantly thought of that, and you're like, no, the 80s one. And then
Yeah.
I remember I watched it before. there's some PTSD commentary in the movie too, because there's soldiers from war and they go into flashbacks. I recall too.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's kind of like there's some commentary on the Vietnam War in this movie, which kind of caught me by surprise. But you're right; it's almost like kind of an analogy to PTSD and coming back from the war. And they at some point William Catt has his army fatigues on, and he's running around the house, and everyone thinks he's lost his mind. But the premise is that his son disappears, and they think he died, but William Catt's character sees him splashing around in the pool,
Right.
and when he dives into the pool to try and rescue him, he kind of vanishes. And so this is his quest to try to find his son and what happened to him. So it has some genuinely creepy moments and some laugh out loud moments. And, I've said this before on our podcast that some of my favorite horror movies are a blend of horror and comedy. I think the comedy offsets the horror and it makes for a great movie to watch come Halloween time.
I remember at the movie, Joe was watching it. There was a character in the movie that started the trope first of the bad lieutenant in the platoon.
Uh-huh.
Oppressing people, bullying people. We
Right.
saw that before Platoon, before Casualties of War, which we saw that similar characters with Tom Berenger in Platoon and Sean Penn in Casualties of War. That made me think of that
Yeah.
when I think of House. I think of those
Yeah.
type of archetypes.
Yeah, and those were movies that were in the theater around the same time, so definitely they were taking
Yeah.
advantage
Well,
of
I think
that,
before, because House was 85.
Yeah.
So actually, this kid did it before Platoon,
Yeah,
before
Oh, you're right.
Casualties
Yeah,
of War.
yeah.
So that's
No,
interesting.
you're absolutely right. Yeah. Another movie that came out in 1985, and I've talked about on this podcast many, many times, is my all-time favorite movie to watch when Halloween rolls around, and that's the original Fright Night that came out in 1985, written and directed by Tom Holland, not Spider-Man, but the director, and stars Chris Sarandon, William Ragsdale, who was on a TV show called Inside Herman's Head, if you can remember that one. Amanda Bierce, who gained fame on Married with Children as Marcy, the next-door neighbor. Stephen Jeffries, who played Evil Ed, and the great Roddy McDowall. Vincent, Peter Vincent was his name in the movie, as the Sir Graves Ghastly-type horror movie host. And everything just sort of falls into place. And, again, it's a great mix of comedy and legitimate scares and things like that. I did do some research online trying to find out if any of those locations are still standing. And unfortunately, that what's called the residential street where some of those houses stood, those main houses, was part of a backlot owned by Disney that has since been demolished. So a lot of those locations are gone. But there are some real-world locations that are still in L.A. that you can visit, like the nightclub where they're dancing. Apparently that's like a shoe store or something today. And you can go in there and go, this is where they filmed Fright Night. Now I've met many of the cast members from Fright Night, and I had some really great moments with them. But I actually got one of the cast members to agree to a brief interview. Here is a short clip from an interview I did with Stephen Jeffries, who played Evil Ed in the movie.
Yeah, everyone in it was perfectly cast, and we were all very excited about it. And we all wanted to make sure that it turned out good, and it was a blast making it.
Roddy McDowall, a legend at the time. What was it like working with Roddy?
I was overwhelmed. He's the real deal, and he's like Hollywood royalty, and really sweet, wonderful person, a very nice man. Yeah.
You had some great moments, great lines in the movie. I say you stole the movie. What are some of the lines that people come up to you and go, say the line?
I would put "You're So Cool, Brewster" at the top. The writing, Tom Holland wrote a great script, so the entire script was great. His dinner's in the oven. That's right. How could I forget that?
So what are your memories of seeing the movie for the first time with those amazing practical effects? What was your reaction sitting in the theater watching?
Yeah, it was just magical, because you don't know what goes on after the film wraps. So you see all of the wonderful work that people put into making it as good as it was. So it was wonderful.
Now, you told me earlier those contacts weren't the most comfortable.
No, they were brutal. They were painful. But you know, it was worth it. The end result made it well worth the pain.
35 years later, almost 40 years later, we're still talking about Fright Night. What does that mean to you?
You never know when you make a movie, you know, how it's going to end up. But, you know, the fact that I'm here talking to you after all this time is pretty amazing. Never would have thought.
So it's really cool to have those kind of moments with the actors who starred in some of my favorite movies. And, you know, at first, Steven was a little hesitant to go on camera, but I talked him into it. And after we were done, it's like we were lifelong best buddies. And, you know, if you make these people comfortable and get them to laugh or whatever, usually they're pretty agreeable when it comes to interview them. And, when I saw that Fright Night in the theater with a group of friends and just was blown away by it, you know, I never would have imagined that years later I would be meeting cast members and interviewing cast members. And it's such a thrill for me and to be able to have the ability to do that. Do you guys agree with the popularity of Fright Night 1985?
I only watched it recently, like last year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I loved it, of course, and it's one of those movies where it's like, I wish I would have seen this when I was 10.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Other people have told me they've seen it and they liked it, so I'd say it's fairly popular from at least my circle.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have talked about it for a couple years now.
Oh, yeah.
A couple other people I know, even a guy at work that I see like once a month, him and I talk about movies when he comes in to deliver stuff, and he mentioned it before, so I'm like,
yeah,
pretty popular.
Someone on your recent podcast, what was the
Mickey?
Mickey, she said that's one of her all-time favorite movies. Yeah,
she loves it.
You know, the funny thing about Fright Night is my brain tells me that it's pretty much a family-friendly movie, and then within the first few minutes you see topless nudity. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Like every 80s movie had to have
lots.
And Scream refers to this where they're like, here comes the gratuitous boob shot.
Yeah.
It's like every movie in the 80s, they had an actress sign a contract that said, all right, it's part of the deal. So, yeah. Robert, your memories of Fright Night?
Well, yeah, we discussed this film on one of our previous podcasts in our 85 retrospective.
Oh, that's right.
And in the general consensus, we loved it. I definitely think it's a classic. They remade the movie. The remake is certainly inferior, but just the whole dynamic with Chris Sarandon and the kid in the movie is just great.
Yeah.
Sarandon's so menacing in this role; he owns it.
Yeah, and they kind of took that whole vampire trope in a new direction, and they didn't put him in a black cape;
No.
they put him in a gray trench coat with a
More
red
punk.
scarf around
Yeah.
his neck, and
Going to nightclubs.
and
all
he
that
was
stuff,
suave, and you're like, yeah, I can see. Like, I just recently saw, I think it was on TikTok, a woman posted a video referring to Chris Sarandon in The Princess Bride, and said, you know what, he's kind of hot in this movie, and it's like, here he is playing the villain in those two movies, but women are drawn to him, and so he's perfectly cast to lure these women into his vampire lair,
The worst neighbor you could ever have.
So yeah, it's such a great film, and so like I said, those first three movies that we talked about all came out in 1985, and that got me to realize how many great movies came out in the 80s. We talked not too long ago about The Fly with Jeff Goldblum, and
Love it.
what a masterpiece that was. Those are some of the movies I revisited last year. I kind of went through an 80s horror phase last year before Halloween, and I watched The Fly. I watched The Lost Boys, which came out in 1987, and that's kind of a fun modern take on the vampire tale. And so here's a list, and I'll kind of throw these out and we can talk about them. But throughout the 80s, here's a list of some of my favorite movies, horror movies that came out in that span. The Fog in 1980 with Adrienne Barbeau. The Shining, also 1980. An American Werewolf in London, 1981.
Yes.
The Changeling with George C. Scott,
Oh, I
one of
love
my
The Changeling.
favorite ghost
I
stories.
just added that to my list. The other
Yeah,
day.
I
Changeling's
love
amazing.
that movie, 1980. Friday the 13th came out in 1980. Its sequel came out the very next year, Friday the 13th Part 2. The Howling, 1981. Prom Night, which cemented Jamie Lee Curtis's title as Scream Queen. That
Still
came
need
out
to
in
see that.
1980.
I
It's
mean,
been a
would you-
while.
I don't know. Wouldn't you say like Halloween did that?
Well, that kind of introduced her as a Scream Queen, but then she kind of embraced it and
Sure,
continued to
okay,
do
yeah.
a couple of movies like that after Halloween. But definitely the Halloween franchise is what introduced her to the world as a Scream Queen. And so let's see, Prom Night was 1980. The Thing, 1982, one of my all-time favorite movies.
Yes.
The Creep Show, which was a lot of fun. That was 1982.
Yes.
That was kind of an anthology. Christine, about the killer car in 1983. Twilight Zone, the movie, another anthology movie, 1983 was a lot of fun, with the exception of the on-set accident that we've
Oh, yeah.
addressed before.
With the helicopter, right?
Yeah, that's just Hollywood horror story. Of course, one of the big movies that came out in the 80s, Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984. Ghostbusters. You know, I know it's not necessarily a horror movie, but it's definitely a Halloween
you can
movie.
watch it at
It's
Halloween.
something I love watching this
Yeah.
time of the year, even though I could watch Ghostbusters any time of the year. Now, I'm curious, do you consider Gremlins a horror movie?
Yes,
I
do.
Some people call it a Christmas movie, and I'm like, okay, here we go. Like Die Hard,
Yeah, yeah.
just because it's set at Christmas doesn't necessarily make it a Christmas movie. But I did talk to one of its stars, and he does refer to, let's see, did I load that up? There he is. He does refer to fans who say that they watch Gremlins every year at Christmas time. Let's take a listen.
Well, you know, I mean, it's kind of interesting because when you're an actor, you do a piece of work and then it goes out and people see it. But except for the reviews, you don't really know how it impacts the fans and people's lives. So one of the nice things about doing these shows is that, you know, fans are pretty vocal and they'll tell you what they like and what they didn't like and what they responded to and what they didn't respond to. And it's very gratifying most of the time because you find out things that you never knew, like, oh, Gremlins is like a part of my childhood, or I watch that movie every Christmas, or I've seen that movie 50 or 60 times. And it's something that as an actor you don't know and you don't experience unless you meet the people and they tell you.
Yeah. As an actor, I mean, not a lot of actors get that project, that movie that people remember so fondly 30 years later. Does it blow your mind that people still care about that movie and mention how much they love it to you?
It is a surprise, and in a way it's not, because it's kind of a timeless movie. It's not really very dated.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of technology in it, not a lot of fashions in it. It takes place in any town, USA. It could happen at almost any time. So it's not really, you know what I mean? It's not like it's not like dated like a lot of other 80s movies are, where it's got the hair and the outfits and the music and the drum machines and whatnot. So it is kind of surprising, and at the same time it's kind of not. So it's just very gratifying.
So that was Zach Galligan, who played Billy in Gremlins, and really cool chatting with him. You know, I've interviewed many actors who've all appeared with Phoebe Cates, but I haven't interviewed Phoebe Cates, and I will make that happen at some point. That would be great to sit down and chat with Phoebe Cates.
So just one thing real quick, Joe.
Yes.
I'm looking up Esquire's 60 best horror films.
Mm-hmm.
Gremlins is number 13.
13. That's
Yeah.
really high. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I consider it a horror for sure. I mean, it's more on the comedic side. It's got a lot of satire
sure.
on it, but it's definitely a horror element in it.
Yeah, I remember just being so shocked at the one moment in particular where the mother, who also appeared in Back to the Future and a couple other films,
Right. Yeah.
when she shoves the gremlin into the microwave and then has the presence of mind to enter a time and hit start, and then it explodes in the
Yeah.
microwave. I was shocked by that in the theater, but it has since become one of my all-time favorite
Let's
films.
not forget that famous attic sequence when they fly out of the attic. The guy on the sled going through the attic.
Which are you
window.
talking about? There's a scene where the old woman is
Old
on
woman,
the
that's what it
the
Stairways, yeah.
she couldn't go up the steps,
Oh,
so
yeah.
she had like a chair that
Yeah.
took
It
her up.
was the
And-
chair
yeah.
that threw her out the window.
Yeah, and they like tampered with it. That
Yeah,
was
that was neat.
shocking but hilarious. And just to close out the other movies that came out in the 80s, Monster Squad, which is a delight.
Yes.
And, of
That's
course,
family friendly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then Beetlejuice, which, has that Tim Burton, Danny Elfman weirdness to it, but it's a lot of fun. That came out in 1988. And this is only a partial list. I mean, as I was looking at the greatest horror movies of the 1980s, of course, you see titles like Evil Dead and things like that. What comes to your mind when you think 80s horror? What should be on every list?
Aliens.
Yeah,
Friday.
that's like a subgenre of like sci-fi
Sci-fi.
horror. Yeah.
Friday the 13th, which I rewatched just a couple nights ago. I really like it. I watched the first 5 Nightmare on Elm Streets 2 weekends ago.
Yeah, you really
Over
immersed
2 nights.
yourself, didn't you? Wow.
5 movies in 2 nights, and I love them. I love the how funny Freddy Krueger tries to be, and I mean it doesn't always land, but it's so goofy.
Yeah.
I love the practical effects. The first one is really, really good. The ones after that, they're very, varying degrees of good, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's funny just to see how he comes back to life at the beginning of each one, tries to make his way back into the town to terrorize people. I love it. I love it, love it, love it.
Speaking of which, if you happen to be in L.A. Over the next couple of days, Robert Englund is getting his star on the Walk of Fame
Finally.
on Halloween. How perfect
Well
is
deserved.
that? So this Friday, he's getting his star on the Walk of Fame. That would be really cool to witness that ceremony, and I'm wondering who's going to be there with him.
Right.
Now that does kind of segue nicely into my next interview at the what was it? Astronomicon a few years ago, I believe it was. I had a chance to interview Heather Langenkamp from
nice.
the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Here's a little soundbite.
Talk about what these movies, the impact they've had on you, your life, your career.
Well, I certainly realize that I've played like one of the greatest roles of all time in the horror genre, and I really appreciate that part of being Nancy. And people tell me all the time how important she was to their growing up, or parts of their life that might have been difficult, where they looked at Nancy as a way through their difficulties. So that's definitely the most touching part of hearing folks' stories about their relationship with Nancy.
Yeah, because she's not just a victim; she's a strong character. She kind of kicked some Freddy butt, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody inside of them has a little bit of Nancy if they look for it. They can watch her and see how she manages all these incredible problems with her life, and I do find that people use her, and I have used her from time to time in my life, so I know that it's possible to do that.
That's awesome. Last question: what does the term "scream queen" mean to you? It seems a little bit of a misnomer, but you're in fantastic company with actresses who've kind of fallen into that scream queen category.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it both ways. If you're screaming at the movie, then I'm part of that. I do some good screams in the show, so I am very proud of that. And it's a term that I had to learn to love, but I do love it now. Yeah.
So how fun is that? And I think we talked on the previous podcast that we did that when I was in LA recently, we were trying to track down some fun horror locations. We found some of the homes that were featured in Halloween. And we also tracked down the house from Nightmare on Elm Street, which the current owner does not appreciate visitors and has basically shrouded the home in greenery and trees and plant life, where it's completely obscured the house and it's barely recognizable as the home from Nightmare on Elm Street, which is so unfortunate because, if you're going to live in a famous home, why not embrace it?
Right.
Why not, why are you chasing people away with a broom? Like, come on, embrace it. Let people take photo ops.
At least try to make some money on it. $15 to take your picture next.
Oh, sure. Yeah, definitely. So I'll never understand that when you end up with a famous home and you're chasing people away. It makes no sense.
And I wanted to tell you, you brought up some great movies there about the 80s. I will tell you that I think it's the most defining decade for horror.
Mm-hmm.
You brought up so many great titles. The one that I love the most is up there is Christine.
Oh,
You
yeah.
brought it up.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that character arc for a moment of
Yeah.
Arnie.
Arnie, yeah.
Most of the times we look at character arcs and we see characters grow, we see them become better people. Arnie does get out of his nerd state with the possession of the car,
Yeah.
but it self-destructs him.
Yeah.
And we see him get stronger. He stands up to the bullies. He stands up to his father.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love how confrontational and more confident he gets, but it's also his own demise from the car. I just think it's a really fascinating story. And I think it's gotten more appreciation over the years because
Yeah.
often when people just celebrate the thing, Halloween, Escape from LA, when they think of Carpenter, I think Christine's one of his top best films.
I agree, and the same thing applies to Stephen King. A lot of Stephen King novels that have been adapted for the screen don't fare all that well, or at least they don't get the critics' praise that some of them may deserve.
Yeah.
But Christine, I think, should rank up there near the top. I
do.
really
Yep.
enjoy that.
I concur, Joe. I think it's one of the 10 finest Stephen King adaptations we ever had, right up with the Shawshank Redemption, up there with Carrie and Misery. Christine's up there too. But you brought up 80s ones. I wanted to tell you, Hellraiser, another great one
Yeah.
that I absolutely love. You brought up The Fly. I think Cronenberg had a great 80s run for horror.
Yes.
He also,
Videodrome.
Yeah, Videodrome, and he also did
Scanners.
Dead Ringers.
Dead Ringers.
Yeah,
And Brian De Palma's Dead Dressed to Kill is amazing too.
it is. Yeah,
It's like a remake in many ways of Psycho. We don't call it that, but really there's a lot of similarities to it. It's
yeah.
more of a modernized version of it. But it's watching that movie though, it's just
Looking out the window.
oh
at the-
yeah. There's a voyeurism to it.
Yep.
It's horrifying too.
That was Angie Dickinson, right?
Yes,
that was
yes.
kind of almost like a comeback movie for her, and put her back in the spotlight. Yeah.
The whole sequence, the whole set piece where she goes to the museum, goes back to the apartment with that guy, and then at the time we had the AIDS scare,
Yeah.
and that kind of plays with that. He's got STDs. It's horrifying. And she gets out of the apartment, and then comes to her own slaughter, and that brilliant.
Yeah.
So it's one of the most terrifying moments. I remember watching that as a teenager. I was like, "Whoa!" That shaking me, and it's still to this date. It's a great film. It's just
Yeah.
so well made.
I saw it in the theater when it came out, probably a little too young to see that in the theater, but was Michael Caine in that as
Yes.
well? Yeah.
So Michael Caine played the psychiatrist in the film.
Yeah. So, no, I'm glad you brought that up. That was a big hit when it came out. Yeah, definitely. Let's see. Any other 80s movies we're missing before we move on?
Sleepaway Camp.
Yes.
I love Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah.
Yes.
It takes. I mean, I know Friday the 13th is the more celebrated one. I think it takes it to another level. I think it's still ahead of its time,
Yeah.
especially with the big that shocking ending.
Yep.
It's talking about body dysphoria before we were even talking about it.
Yeah.
I guess Dressed to Kill did too.
Yeah.
And I think it's commending these filmmakers at the time were making some very edgy stuff for its time, which way ahead of its time. That's now reached a level of normalization. What I like about that stuff was taboo now. Now transgender people could look back at that and say it could be degrading. I could see that, but now
Right.
you could look at it. But there was a lot of anxiety at the time and uncertainty about it, and it taps into that. Well,
Sure. One of the fun things about growing up in the 80s and watching horror movies in the theater in the 80s was the practical effects.
Yes.
We didn't have digital effects yet. So
Yeah.
imagine these effects geniuses like Tom Savini, who had to come up with creative ways of murdering young virgins in these, camp movies, Friday the 13th, stuff like that. And that was part of the appeal of these movies, not necessarily, reveling in the horror of it, but figuring out how did they do that? When Kevin Bacon is laying on a cot in Friday the 13th and like a knife or something goes through the bed, through his throat and comes out and you're like, wait a second, how did they pull that off? And
Right.
and it was kind of fun, like trying to figure out how they did these. And of course, every werewolf movie tried to outdo the previous werewolf movie with these transformation scenes.
Right.
When you think about the werewolf transformations in The Howling, an American Werewolf in London,
remarkable.
and even the Jack Nicholson werewolf movie, Wolf, that came out, they're fascinating to figure out how did they do that. In American Werewolf, you see the snout like kind of come out of his face, and you're like, this is amazing. So
Right.
my hat's off to the people who created practical effects in the 80s
For sure.
and just, like I said, at that time, I wasn't reveling in the grotesqueness of it. I was fascinated by how did they
Yeah.
pull this off. And these guys were artists. It was just really incredible to see that on the big screen.
Go ahead, Andrew.
I was just going to say, just speaking of our podcast that we recorded 2 nights ago, I talk about how watching these 80s horror movies that I've been watching all month now, mostly from the 80s, of course, that I will have to stop and rewind certain parts of it because I'm not paying attention to what's really happening. I'm paying attention to see how did they do that.
Yeah.
Like in the first Nightmare on Elm Street with the blood coming straight out of the bed.
Oh my God, what a
And
moment!
then I was thinking about it. Then I read about it and how they had like a room that actually rotated.
Sure.
And also talking about Savini. Last night I watched the Night of the Living Dead remake from 1990.
Yeah.
And I think it holds up well, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, this will segue into this. I love Romero. Let's not forget Romero.
Yes.
Day of the Dead. We brought it up before in the retrospective. This is a great film with great prosthetics. And never before have they humanized zombies quite well.
Yep.
And they show how humans are just as primitive.
Yeah.
And there's some great themes to that. I mean, Bub.
Yeah.
The Bub character is so great in that film. And I also wanted to break Dario Argento.
Yeah.
He had a great 80s run, too. He had Tenebrae. I know you just
Yeah,
watched.
we just mentioned that the other night.
So Tenebrae is crazy. I think it's up there with Psycho and Halloween is one of the greatest slashers of all time. Joe, there's a sequence in the film where there's a young woman getting chased by a Doberman pinscher.
Yeah.
She outruns it. Then the killer catches up to her right after that. It's so nail baiting. And watching that sequence today, it's now over 40. It's 40 years old, a little over 40 years old. That came out the year I was born, 82.
Yep.
And that film still is thrilling. The set pieces and how he stages the camera. There's another scene, and this is Dario Argento. This is the killer. Is off screen. We see the point of view. He started the whole thing. We see in Friday the 13th the first perspective point of view, and you only see the hands. And we've seen it in so many horror films since. He still played on that 10 years after doing it. But man, there's this. You know what I'm talking about? When the first victim in that house, and it just starts off in a crane shot, goes all down. We're following this woman. And then all of a sudden, he cuts through a sheet, and she's like, "Whoa!" And there's this big mesmerizing scene on it. Argento is just such a master at that time.
How did he get all these hot Italian women to be in all these movies? I don't know.
And opera's a great one too.
Mm-hmm.
And Suspiria.
Well, Suspiria is 70s, but still great. Yeah.
Now, of course, with the just the overwhelming amount of horror films that came out in the 80s. There's the inevitable backlash where the genre sort of died off, pardon the pun, and we went a while without seeing those types of things on the big screen. There might have been something occasional that came out, but then we got to give credit to the movie that revived the whole genre, and that's Scream. When you thought, horror movies were dead, Scream comes out in 1996, written by Kevin Williamson, directed by Wes Craven of Nightmare on Elm Street fame. And it's set in the fictional town of Woodsboro, California. The thing that was so revolutionary about that movie is they made an effort to showcase Drew Barrymore in the trailers. And so when you're sitting in the theater thinking this was a Drew Barrymore starring vehicle, surprise, that was not the case. And you're sitting there numb in your seat like, what just happened here? It was so shocking. And then to have the characters dissect and analyze horror movies and what makes a horror movie. And the cast, Nev Campbell, Skeet Ulrich, Matt Lillard, who went on to play Shaggy in the Scooby-Doo movies. Jamie Kennedy, who's the video store clerk who really provides the narrative of how to break down and analyze films. David Arquette and Courtney Cox is an unlikely romantic couple in the movie and in real life.
I was going to say,
they were married briefly in real life, and I don't know, whatever floats your boat, I guess. Rose McGowan, and this is interesting. Henry Winkler of Fonzie fame makes an uncredited appearance in the film. The
principal
didn't. Yeah, he didn't appear in the trailers. He was never mentioned, and so they wanted the audience to get that surprise when he appears on screen. And you're like, wait a second, is that the Fonz? Is that Henry Winkler? And apparently he requested to not get a screen credit, because he wanted these young actors to be the stars of the film, and he didn't want to overshadow them with his baggage that he brought with him.
That just goes to show that and what I've read many times is he's the nicest guy in
He
Hollywood.
is. Yeah, I've met him several times. and
Lucky.
He's super, super nice,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, the last time I met him, I brought up Barry, the HBO series, and man, did he light up to be able to talk about Barry, you know?
And you see him pop up in all these things, still going strong.
Yeah,
When did Happy Days first come out?
70s, like
75?
early 70s.
50
yeah.
years ago, and he's still
Yeah.
going strong. Of course, everyone loves him on as the goofy lawyer on Arrested Development.
Yeah.
Just, everything is in. Excellent.
What a career.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was in Michigan recently. He was at the Hot Wheels show, which isn't the toy cars. It was the classic cars. But he made an appearance there. I didn't get to make it out there. I had something going on that weekend. I think it was Dragon on the Lake weekend. But I saw people posting pictures on Facebook. He's just so nice and so accommodating. And one of the highlights of my career, I got to interview another star of the Scream franchise, a beautiful woman.
Oh, I know who this is.
Neve Campbell. Let's take a listen.
What's it like having people come up and tell you how much your work means to them?
It's pretty amazing. I think as a screen actor, you don't get that immediate response from an audience like you do when you're on stage. So for us to come out and meet the fans and hear their opinions and see how we have some kind of an impact is really lovely.
Speaking of impact, let's talk about the Scream franchise, what it did for the horror genre and what it meant to you in your career.
Everything. For the horror genre, it's said that it brought the genre back. I think there had been a big lull in horror films, and we were lucky that we hit at the right time and made a good movie. And Kevin Williamson and Wes Craven as a combo were just incredibly bright with what they did with the film, with sort of making a horror film with a wink at the horror film genre at the same time. It was very intelligent. So that was exciting. And for me, it was my first lead in a movie, and it did really well. So I was lucky.
It looked fun.
It was a lot of fun. We had a blast on these movies.
I imagine it was a physically demanding role, too, but gosh, the interview Neve Campbell, that was just such a huge thrill.
She said that was her first leading role?
I think so, yeah.
Wow.
She had done Party of Five on television, but that
Yes.
was her transition into big screen movies.
That's right.
Now, if you're a fan of Scream, the Motor City Comic Con is returning to Novi starting November 14th, and several cast members are going to be
Nice.
there. Skeet Ulrich and Matt Lillard, who appear together at a lot of cons, they're going to
Lillard
be
goes
there.
to those often.
What's that?
Yeah, Lillard goes to those often.
Yeah, exactly.
Neat.
And he gives everybody a memorable experience. Jamie Kennedy's supposed to be there, and one person I'm really excited to see is Rose McGowan. She's going to be there as well. So I'm hoping to get out there, and I don't know if I can get any sound bites from them, but I definitely want some photo ops with them.
Plus, they're coming out with a new one next year, right? Scream 7?
I
think it is?
believe so.
Yeah.
And is
I don't-
Neve Campbell returning?
I was trying to think who's going to be in that.
Yeah, I know
Uh-huh.
she was kind of playing hardball because they were threatening to do a Scream movie without her, which there's no point in that.
Exactly.
But yeah, so I don't know if she's returning to that or not. But yeah, Scream was a game changer, and like Nev said, revived the horror movie genre, and we've gotten so many cool movies since then.
We got Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox,
Oh, they're all coming back. Yeah.
Joel McHale from Community,
Oh, interesting.
David Arquette, of course, Anna Camp. I don't know if you guys know who she is. Really cute blonde. Matthew Lillard, Scott Foley. There you go.
There you go.
And a bunch of other people. I
Matthew
never-
Lillard's coming
How?
back. Interesting.
Does he have a twin brother?
Yeah, or maybe he escapes from prison because he.
Well, I thought-
you're right. He was
I
dead.
thought died.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Unless somehow he survived.
It
that.
says, Matthew Lillard and Scott Foley, who both portrayed, or who portrayed respectively, Stu Matcher and Roman Bridger, have also been cast in the film. I don't know if it's going to be like a flashback or something, but that's what it says.
Yeah.
You
Now,
have to do de-aging.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Now, Matt Lillard, his character. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I just watched this again a week or so ago. The TV set falls on him, and you see him kind of wriggling on the ground. Was that the last we saw of him, or did he show up again after the TV set incident? I think
No,
that
he
might have
died
been-
from there.
Yeah. So
Was
now
that in the first one?
they
First one.
they
Okay.
could
Yeah.
theoretically
The end.
say that might not have been his death. He was electrocuted, but we didn't quite see him die, did we?
Like in Rise of Skywalker, somehow the Emperor's
yeah,
back.
yeah, exactly. Now Skeet Ulrich, I mean, he took a bullet to the forehead, so
Yeah, he was
obviously
done,
we're
yeah.
not going to be seeing him in any films. But it's possible that Lillard may have survived Scream 1
So that comes out February 27th.
of next year.
Yep.
Oh, wow, that's not too far away.
Yeah, they often usually come out in February, March. Has been the tradition in those Scream movies, March.
Okay.
Huh,
Yeah,
okay.
I think the last one was
Interesting.
February. Joe Scream's it's an overused word, but I do consider Scream a masterpiece.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I made my top 10 that year. It's a transcendent work.
Yeah.
It really is. They took all the routine tropes of horror, they took all the cliches, and they elevated it
Yeah.
on so many multiple levels.
I
Yeah.
need to rewatch it. I've only saw that first one once,
Oh wow,
25 years ago.
Wow.
That was it. I need to rewatch it.
yeah, this is like a revisit one. I think this is one everyone should revisit at least once every 3 years or so.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I did spot, watching it recently, I did spot some flaws that kind of drove me crazy a little bit. So, Rose McGowan has a pretty memorable death scene in Scream. where
garage.
She's killed by a garage that,
Yeah.
when you think about it, have you ever seen a garage door that had the power to lift a body off the ground?
I don't
Usually,
think so.
they stop pretty abruptly if something, interferes with it. But that's not even the part that bugs me. The part that bugs me is she's trying to climb through the doggy door and she ends up getting killed and she's like hanging out of the doggy door. Well, the party ends. Most of the people that were at the party are leaving. Nobody sees her dangling from the garage doors or leaving the party. And we don't see her body again until toward the end when Nev Campbell's running around and then she sees her in the doggy door. But I'm like,
well,
how did nobody see her hanging
I
from
kind
the
of
dog-
buy it though, Joe, because it's
Do ya?
dark and they're intoxicated.
That's true. But there's, there are times where I'm thinking, Wes Craven is like, okay, don't notice that. Just enjoy the movie. And I'm like, all right.
I actually think that it's Craven's best directed film.
Yeah.
On a
Really?
visual technical level.
I
Wow.
agree. Yeah.
Yes. It's-
Especially like one of my favorite moments in Scream is when Jamie Kennedy's sitting on the couch by himself and he's watching Halloween on the TV screen. And as he's providing commentary to Halloween, like, look behind you, the Ghostface murderer is coming up behind him. Well, the guy in the TV truck is watching this on their hidden camera. And so he's watching Jamie Kennedy as he sees the murderer coming behind him. That whole sequence is brilliant.
It is.
Absolutely
It is.
brilliant. And there's enough of a lag where he can't do anything about it and watches it kind of unfold or whatever. It's just brilliant, some
it
of
is.
the fun things they did in this movie.
And Courtney Cox, I like her dynamic with Neb Campbell. That's great
Yeah.
too. Just the bitterness that she holds from exploiting her family
Yeah.
into the current murders and how it plays into the other sequels. I've always liked the dynamic as well as the exchanges between those two actresses in those
Yeah.
roles.
Yeah, and again, like I said earlier, tricking us by believing that Drew Barrymore was going to be a main character in this film.
She got the Janet Leigh treatment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And I'm sure that's what they were probably paying homage to was
Yeah,
Psycho. Like here you are thinking Janet Leigh is going to be one of the main stars of Psycho, and then whoa, no, she's gone.
Right.
So yeah, it's really interesting when they trip you up, and I love movies like that just throw things at you that throw you off. Because who wants to sit there and predict every twist and turn? I like being thrown off and
Yes.
left guessing, And, that brings up movies like, I don't know if you guys can agree with me here, but one of my favorite more modern films, even though it's probably 20 years old, is The Others with Nicole Kidman.
I just
Yeah,
watched that again the other
Yeah.
week.
I saw that in the theater. I liked
Me
it.
too. Yep.
Now,
That twist was really good.
Yeah, and I never saw it coming.
Yeah.
When they revealed the true nature of the film, my jaw hung open. I was just blown away.
Right.
So it's really cool when someone who loves movies as much as I do watches a movie that provides genuine thrills and twists and turns that I don't see coming. I really appreciate that. And, Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Some people are like, "Oh, I saw it coming." I'm like,
No, you
"Oh,
didn't."
bullshit."
Not the first time.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
At the theater, give me a break.
and that's probably why it did such great box office, is because after seeing it the first time, I had to go back and see it again to see if it holds up.
Yes, and
This-
it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that there wasn't, like there's a funeral scene earlier that Bruce Willis is at, and I'm watching as extras are walking past him. Does anyone acknowledge his existence? Like, I wanted to see someone make eye contact or walk around him or whatever. And now they must have told everybody at the start of filming, do not acknowledge Bruce Willis on the set, because it held up very, very well.
I wonder if that was one of the type of things where they kept the plot unknown from the majority of cast and crew.
Well, I think they would have to tell them, because you wouldn't want them to ruin it by treating him like, a normal human being, because that would ruin the whole
But
illusion.
also, you wouldn't want any of those leaks to get out.
That
Well,
too,
yeah,
but,
yeah.
Make everybody sign an NDA.
Yeah, right.
Even the craft services
Well,
person.
even then, when you film a movie, they just get the slides. They don't know the whole context of the script. The only people who know is the main cast. So they probably, like to Joe's point, they probably said, "Don't look at them."
Yeah.
But no, I'm glad you brought that up, because I wanted to bring that up too. The Sixth Sense holds up extremely well.
Yeah.
Both it's terrifying. It also has a great human element as well. It's very dramatically and emotionally charged. Bruce Willis, one of his finest performances.
I
too.
agree.
Yep.
Yeah, dare I say Oscar worthy. I mean, he was absolutely fantastic.
That was a
in
tough
that.
year. Yeah, I mean, it was a competitive year. But Tony Collette was nominated,
Oh,
rightfully
that's
so,
right.
for
Yeah,
supporting. Yeah.
Yeah. Was Haley
And he
Joel-
was too for
Yeah.
supporting actor. Yes.
Wow, what
Yep.
a performance!
It
One of
was.
the all-time great child performances in film.
Sure.
Top 10, possibly top 5. I remember talking to Henry Thomas from E.T., and I had an opportunity to tell him that his performance in E.T. Is one of the greatest child performances of all time. And, like we were saying before the podcast, he seemed genuinely moved by that. Like, wow, thank you very much. But I'm sure he's had to have heard it from other people. And speaking of E.T., this kind of made me laugh. As I was looking up film titles to discuss today and looking at lists of greatest horror movies, E.T. was on some list, and I'm like,
no.
that's-
Sometimes they fetch. That's science fiction.
Yeah, and there might be some frightening moments for little ones, but
It's not horror.
who in their right mind would put E.T. on a list of favorite
No,
horror movies?
that's a
for you?
Thanksgiving movie. A family gets
Exactly.
together.
Yeah. So I disagree with that, but yeah, there have been some really great child performances, and Haley Joel Osment in The Sixth Sense. It was just remarkable. Like, it was just really remarkable to get that kind of a performance, because a lot of times when you have a little kid in a film, it's hard. It's tough to buy into, what they're doing. But wow, was he great? Yeah. Now, kind of a Halloween tradition for me every year. In addition, it's kind of like, you go back to the days when people would go to the movie theater and they would get like an animated short, maybe a newsreel before the main feature, a couple of trailers. Sometimes when I sit down to watch Halloween movies, I'll watch a couple of appetizers before it starts. One of those, of course, is It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's
yeah.
something you got to watch before a movie. And even though, it's not necessarily a theatrical release, it basically created the Halloween special. Like, there weren't Halloween specials prior to Great Pumpkin, and it was such a huge phenomenon that people started creating Halloween content for television. It was the third animated Peanuts short after the Christmas one, which was a huge hit. And surprisingly, and I for some reason don't remember this, it was followed by Charlie Brown's All-Stars, which was a baseball-themed Peanuts short. So the Great Pumpkin was the third release in the series of Peanuts cartoons, and it was phenomenal. And, I almost laughed out loud when I was reading about its origins, that the CBS, behind the creation of these, when they heard the music score for these shorts, they were like, you can't put jazz in these cartoons geared toward kids. And basically Vince Guaraldi, who did the music in it, they were like, no, this is what we want.
Yeah.
Can you imagine those shorts now without that Vince Guaraldi jazz score?
No, it brings a lot of emotion to it.
Oh,
and
so
humor. It's
fantastic.
got a perfect balance.
Yeah. And I love how they took the strips, the Charles Schultz strips, and somehow turned those into a script to fill a half hour or whatever on network television. And it holds up so well. And It aired on television every year for like 50 years or something ridiculous. Now I think somebody has the exclusive rights to it, but I have it on Blu-ray, so I just pop it in on Blu-ray. But
They always play the Charlie Brown shorts on CBS.
yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
Yes, I remember that vividly, Andrew. Yep.
Do you guys remember who the main sponsor was on the Charlie Brown specials?
Colgate?
No,
I don't know.
brought to you by Dolly Madison, the snack cakes, which I don't even know if
Okay.
they make those anymore, but I remember those being sponsored
Never
by
heard of
Dolly
them.
Madison. Yeah,
I don't remember
you have to
that,
look that up. Now, my other appetizer that I usually watch before watching a Halloween movie, uh, there were two shorts that were released together, and I don't know why Disney did this because they're not really related to each other, and eventually, over time, they kind of got split up into two separate things. But you can find a DVD or Blu-ray today called The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. It was a theatrical release in 1949. The Mr. Toad part of it was based on Wind in the Willows, which was a novel, I believe. But The Adventures of Ichabod was based on the Legend of Sleepy Hollow and the Headless Horseman. And my God, I think that's one of the most beautifully animated Disney films of all time. And it's kind of unfortunate that for a while there, Disney was working on making that a feature-length animated film. And for one reason or another, they decided to just pair it up as a short with the Mr. Toad thing. And but my God, that's one I watch every year, and it's just beautiful. Are you guys familiar with the Disney version?
I haven't seen it. I've seen, poster, whatever, online, and maybe like a clip on something, but I haven't actually watched it.
Same here. I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
Never watched it. I should though. I mean, it's only a few minutes.
Yeah. It's probably 15 minutes long, if
15,
that.
okay.
Yeah, it might be a little longer than that, but it's just got this slow build where Ichabod's in this small town in Massachusetts or whatever, and he falls in love with Katrina Van Tassel, and so the bulk of it is him trying to woo her, much to the chagrin of Brom Bones, who was also interested in Katrina. And so check it out. It all builds up to Ichabod coming home late one night and being tormented by the Headless Horseman. And it's so beautifully animated, and it makes you long for hand-drawn animation from that time period, because there's just something magical about it.
It says it's an hour and 8 minutes.
Well, that's the entire DVD with Mr. Toad. So So I usually, when I put the DVD in, I just watch the Sleepy Hollow portion.
And I love the Sleepy Hollow's tale, the saga. So.
Yeah.
The Tim Burton movie. Ooh, I love that movie.
Very strong film.
So good.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, when I was in L.A., we found out that the Egyptian Theater, which was right down the street from the hotel that I was staying at, was having a Tim Burton a tribute fest, basically. And each night they were showing a Tim Burton movie, and it just so happens the night we looked it up, they were showing Sleepy Hollow. So me and my buddy went to the Egyptian Theater, famous historic theater on Hollywood Boulevard there, home to the very first movie premiere. And we got to watch Sleepy Hollow in this beautifully restored historic theater that is now owned by Netflix. They have their premieres there. Okay. But imagine seeing Sleepy Hollow on the big screen again. And I was blown away by the palette. The color palette of the film, and it almost, when you think back about it, you have to think, was it black and white? Because the colors are so muted, with the exception of some vibrant reds and oranges and things like that. But the palette is so muted.
Well, most of it is either at night or if it's in day, there's an overcast,
gray overcast. Yeah. And I was just blown away by the overall feel of the film, and it's so well done and infinitely rewatchable. And I was really happy to sit down and watch Sleepy Hollow again on the big screen after years and years and years. So
I actually got to see it on the big screen when it came out. I saw it at the Great Lakes Crossing in '99.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Great fond memories of that screen.
And what's his name? The actor
Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp. God, my brain's not working. Johnny Depp. He kind of gets criticized sometimes for the eclectic characters that he plays, but I really enjoy a lot of the characters. And seeing him play Ichabod Crane as sort of
Yeah.
this bumbling, fearful, almost wimpy sort of a character. I just really got a kick out of that.
Yeah,
And
that's Burton's De Niro. It's like
Yeah.
Scorsese and De Niro. You got Burton
Exactly.
and Depp. They're great collaborators with a lot of great entries.
right, right. And then the only other movie I want to talk about before we kind of go around for your input is another movie that to me, it seems like it only came out recently, but it's been almost 20 years. Trick or Treat came out in 2007, written and directed by Michael Dougherty. There are 5 stories, but it's not really an anthology. It's kind of an anthology, but the
yeah.
stories sort of
Twine.
interweave. They
Yeah.
sort of cross over into each other.
Tarantino in a sense.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. And it kind of bounces back and forth in time a little bit, and it tries to introduce a new horror icon in Sam, the little Halloween character that enforces the rules of Halloween. And for the most part, it's family friendly, but there's a couple of gross moments and
Yeah. Dylan
couple of
Baker's
moments that-
pretty. His character's quite unnerving in that.
yeah. So I really enjoy it. I don't know if I'd sit around with little ones and watch it, but if
Well,
you're with friends and you're looking for something fun to watch for Halloween, Trick or Treat, I think is a classic. And it got a really limited release in theaters when it came out. I couldn't even find a theater that it was playing in. If it did come to my area, it was probably like the Maple or something very
It
briefly.
played at Birmingham 8.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And it came and went so quickly, and critics just raved. I remember reading a review in Entertainment Weekly where they gave it an A+, and they were
Yeah.
calling it a masterpiece. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why can't
right.
I see this in
I think it
theaters?
was Lisa Schwarzbaum from EW.
Yeah.
That's why I
Yeah.
found out about that movie. But yeah, very underseen at the time. And then it
Yeah.
blew into a cult classic once it got DVD released.
Exactly. And so I counted down the days to when it would get released on DVD, and I bought it sight unseen, sat down, turned off the lights, watched it. I'm like, this is a masterpiece. And it's just a crime that the studio didn't get behind it and really give it a major release around Halloween. I think it would have been a big hit
Oh, yeah.
as a big Halloween release. I'll never understand why they didn't get behind this film. You like to use the term masterpiece. I think the movie's a masterpiece. I really, really enjoy it.
The last couple of years, they've been talking about doing another one,
The sequel.
a sequel.
I'd love to
Or-
see a sequel.
Yep, sequel.
I mean, you go into, Spirit Halloween and you see,
Oh, yeah.
merchandise all over the place. They're merchandising the
Costume's
heck
a
out
big
of it.
seller. Yeah.
Yeah, and life-size Sam animatronic characters and things like that, and the little broken sucker that you can buy and all that stuff. So, like you said, it found a life on DVD after the fact, but it should have gotten a more of a studio push. I think people would regard it as a classic, and I really enjoy watching that this time of the year. So, Andrew, any movies we're leaving out? What's if you're going to get friends together in the week leading up to Halloween, like we're in right now? What would you insist that you pop into the old DVD player?
So my list for with friends would be very different than watching my favorite horror movies.
Right.
No, well, there'd be some overlap. There's just so many I can't pick. A good one that I recently watched for my other podcast was The Gate.
Okay.
It was pretty good. Evil Dead, of course, you mentioned before, and this movie doesn't scream Halloween, I guess, to me, but just in terms of in general horror, and of course it's Carpenter. They Live.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
There was for 8 years now they've been talking about doing a remake, and
I can't imagine
I don't-
without
no.
Roddy Piper.
I don't
but-
think it went any. It's not going anywhere, but man, such a good movie.
And it does straddle that line, like we talked about Aliens earlier, that it's kind of a sci-fi horror
Yeah.
genre. I always think, I own close to 700 DVDs. I'm real close to 700. And I've thought about trying to organize them by genre, but it's impossible to do because so many great movies straddle multiple genres. Do you put They Live in the horror genre
I'd
or
put
the
it in horror.
sci-fi genre?
I have a rule breaker on that. This is what happens. You have horrifying moments of terror.
Yeah.
You're going in the horror bucket.
Yeah.
If it's pure sci-fi like Star Wars, you're staying Star Wars.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. If it's got a little bit of macabre in it, like Event Horizon, sci-fi horror.
Yeah.
You brought up few other ones, or Alien, for instance.
Alien.
I consider that horror.
Yeah.
Aliens,
Yeah,
though.
it's
Aliens,
interesting.
though. Andrew brought that up. I think that's more action sci-fi, though.
You're right. I think the sequel
The,
is
the second, there's a lot more action.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the first one's very claustrophobic.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah. Now, you know what? Since you brought up Alien, I've watched a couple episodes of that new series that's on Hulu, Alien Earth, and I haven't been all that impressed with most of it, but I saw people raving about one of the episodes, and I forget what number episode it was, maybe 5 or something, and they really sort of captured the spirit in that one particular episode where they show the origin of the crew on the ship that crash landed on Earth and what led to the crash, and watching the alien creatures kind of pick off the crew one by one. I'm like, okay, I have to admit this is pretty cool and in keeping with the original Alien. So.
I love the series. I thought it was great. I love how they go into deep about the androids with the children's minds. Or
being
whatever.
transplanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. And
Yeah.
thought it was really well made. The only thing I didn't like about it was the late 90s, early 2000s rock music, like at the end.
Okay.
I don't know. I thought it wasn't a good fit.
Now, you know what's interesting, and you just got me thinking about this. So I had to read up on, like, what's the time period that TV series takes place in. And they say that the events taking place on Earth are happening while Sigourney Weaver and her crew are in hypersleep or whatever out in space. And I'm like, okay, so they're sort of overlapping.
Yeah.
What's intriguing to me now is there's talk of doing another Alien movie with Sigourney Weaver as Ripley. So I'm wondering, are they going to include the events of the TV series to have, like, Ripley? I mean, well, she went into that deep sleep for how many years before the sequel Alien? So
yeah, it was.
I don't know how
it was
that's
a long
going to
time.
work. Yeah,
Is it going to be her now at age 70?
Or I would imagine.
Or
Do
do you think they would do a de-age thing and throw her back in the middle somewhere?
That's a good question.
Probably-
I don't know,
probably
but
de-age.
are they going to acknowledge the events of Alien 3, which is not a fan favorite? So
Right.
They'll probably. I think I read they're going to skip over that. They're just gonna
really,
play
just
the world
kind
of
of
Alien aliens.
Interesting.
I still need to watch Resurrection. I heard it's not great. But
Anything
one I haven't
after
seen.
Aliens, I
Yeah.
could do without. But like I said, the series has been intriguing. But I'm definitely intrigued by Sigourney Weaver possibly coming back to that role. What else you got, Andrew? While you're looking,
Yeah,
I'm
you
going to
guys-
help myself to some chocolate. Do a little trick or treating
and,
here.
and it's like you guys were saying, like there are a lot of horror movies, but they don't really fit in like a Halloween theme. Like we were talking about sci-fi now. It's like when I think of Halloween horror, I don't think of Alien,
Right.
or Toxic Avenger, or Killer Clowns from Outer. Well, maybe Killer Clowns, but
Yeah, I feel that if you want to watch a movie for Halloween, it has to have some element of fun,
Yeah,
not just be grotesque and disturbing.
you have to program it away.
Mhm.
And actually, that's what I do. I'll talk about it in a minute, but I program it away.
there's this one I just recently watched for the first time last week called The Beyond.
You brought up Suspiria. Tell me that indie did not remind you of Suspiria, because I didn't want to tell you that because I knew you didn't see it. But once you saw it, when did you be surprised?
So this lady inherits a hotel in Louisiana, and then all these weird mess up things start happening. People are like, the guy's getting crucified, like nailed up against the wall. There's like acid falling on people, and of course with the effects, their bodies just melting.
Oh no! Tell him the director.
Argento.
No, the Beyondo's Fulci.
Fulci. Yeah.
He's crazy. He was crazy.
See, I had never heard of him until this.
Okay, he's done a lot of great ones too.
I've seen a list now. But it really caught my attention, and I'm like, oh, this is something that you could write a paper on, But,
All right, Robert,
Yeah,
what do you got?
Well, where do I begin? What would you like to do?
Obviously,
Joe?
something we haven't touched on yet. So if you're having a get together with friends, and you say, I'm going to provide the entertainment, you get some snacks, you get some chocolate, get some cider and donuts. got your big screen TV and you're like, okay, let me entertain you for the next couple of hours. What are you going to choose to entertain your guests for your Halloween get-together?
So if it's a Halloween themed, I always do Carpenter's first Halloween. Honestly,
definitely.
I've had people over and I've shown people that before. A lot of people have seen them and haven't watched in a while, but I think any Michael Myers movie fits with that.
Yeah.
You get in that in mentality. I know some are not, some are better than others, but there's just something about you could pop anyone in. And I have a blast showing people Halloween 3 because a lot of people have not watched that or have only watched
The
it.
Season of the Witch.
Season of the Witch, which was very hated at the time.
Yeah.
Because it defied people's expectations. They went in wanting Michael Myers. Now that movie is more appreciated, and it's actually very well done. And there's actually some sharp Carpenter satire and commentary in that he did in They Live. He was doing that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't direct it, but he did have some say in the producing, and I think Deborah wrote
it kind of touches on the influence of television.
Yeah,
right?
television
I mean,
and consumerism and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Those, luring children in to where those. I mean, it really is showing that how they lure kids into bad habits.
Yeah.
Really, it's a metaphor for that, kind of like with fast food and
Talking
junk
about
and
bad
stuff
habits.
like that. But
Am I right, folks?
yeah, but no, Halloween Season of the Witch is a blast to watch. Another fun one to watch with people is The Stuff. It's a movie about this killing yogurt from the 80s.
I just added that to my
Danny
list. too.
Aiello's on that. Yeah, it's
The
really well
Stuff.
made too.
That's funny.
But if you want to talk about one of my favorites, if you want to talk about my favorite horror film of all time,
Sure.
it'd be Rosemary's Baby.
Oh, okay.
The movie with Sharon, Tate's husband, Roman Polanski,
Polanski.
Yeah.
directed that, and as we know, Mia Farrow's in it. And to me, watching that film, it's still terrifying today.
Mm-hmm.
And you could talk about maybe the satanic stuff that's scary, but the scariest thing is when people convince you that you're not all there, you're crazy, and everybody else that's crazy gaslight you into thinking you're crazy. That's, to me, the scariest thing you could think of. And
Yeah.
I think that really taps into our culture then, and it could still tap into it now. When you see the truth, and you know the truth, but you feel minuscule, it's almost Orwellian in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And
that has a real twist at the end.
a
Doesn't
real
it?
twist, an unforgettable one. And
Yeah.
and somebody brought this up to me. I had a Mandela effect with this movie. This young gal I was working with saw the movie, and she goes, "You see Damien's eyes?" And I said, "No, we don't. It's cut out. We see the crib, but we never see the face." She goes, "No, you see the eyes." I watched it, and you do. Popped it in. You do see it. It actually dissolves. There's a dissolve. I'm like, how did I never catch that? I remember that
Interesting.
because that movie's so psychological when you watch it. It really becomes like Psycho, like Hitchcock in a way, where you're seeing it more in your mind, and it disturbs you that much. And that's the impact that Rosemary leaves on you. So if you go back and watch it, it's pretty subtle, but when they say look at him, and it does show the eyes of the devil. in
So
it.
the baby's name is Damien in the movie?
Yeah.
And is there any connection to the Omen movies that followed? Like, because that child is named Damien.
No
in those-
connections on it. No.
That's
Yeah.
kind of interesting that name is used in
Yeah,
both
yeah,
of
they
those
s- yeah,
films
they-
in connection with the devil. I wonder if there's some story behind that.
And that apartment too is creepy too.
Yeah,
Just how it is, and the neighbors. There's something off when you first watch it.
yeah,
You can't place it, but then it's revealed that way.
yeah.
And another one I love is The Shining.
Yeah, and that's another big 80s movie.
Kubrick's, yeah.
1980, that came out. And that's more of sort of a psychological thriller sort of a thing with
Supernatural too.
yeah. And I don't know if you saw this recently. There's breaking news with The Shining. But you know the famous photograph of like a large party scene, and it's hanging on the wall of the hotel, and when somebody looks at it closely, you see Jack Nicholson
Yes.
like in the center of that photo.
The very end shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so people were wondering, how was that done? Are these a bunch of extras who are gathered together for this photo? And somebody found the original photo, which is actually from the 30s or 40s. And Jack Nicholson was meticulously inserted into that photo, but someone found it as like a licensed photo online somewhere. And they finally solved that mystery, that those people in that photo lived back in the 30s and 40s, and I'm like, well, that's fascinating that
Yeah.
somebody tracked down that photo. That's
It
pretty
is.
cool.
It makes sense too, because how meticulous Kubrick is. It's like,
Yeah.
but it's got to be that way.
Yeah.
And one of my other favorites too, we didn't touch on, is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, as much as I'm repulsed by that movie, we have to acknowledge it as sort of the granddaddy of slasher flicks, because as I was doing, research on these types of movies, it kept coming back. Even though you could give credit to Psycho, but as far as modern slasher flicks, Texas Chainsaw Massacre did it first, and everything followed in its wake. So you gotta give credit to the movie for kind of almost creating a genre there.
It is, and there's a lot of rich subtext to the movie that you could look into. One of my favorite ones is the look of the Vietnam War, the aftermath of it. It shows that hysteria, and then in shot, I just think of the time it was released, what Tobe Hooper's saying in that film, where she can't quite escape it. It's just like the nightmare of Vietnam. We can't escape this trauma. She's going to be living with it. And that ending's just so spellbinding and intense.
Now, we've talked about this on the podcast before, that movies like Psycho and Texas Chainsaw were all based on the crimes of one real demented individual, Ed Gein. There's a series right now that people are talking about. Have you guys had a chance to watch the series based on Ed Gein's atrocities?
My buddy at work has been watching it, and he's been telling me about it. But we know somebody who did some of the makeup on that. Troy.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the guys who is doing work on Phantom Moon.
Oh,
Work
okay.
on some of the effects. Yeah.
Now, talking to someone recently who has watched a couple of episodes, they said one thing that kind of bothers them about it is the series kind of takes some liberties and attributes things to Gein that weren't necessarily proven to be his handiwork. So
Yeah.
I guess they're taking some liberties there. But I personally, I don't think I can subject myself to watching those types of things. So I was kind of curious if you guys have taken a look at
I
it.
haven't, and if it is like super graphic, I'm not going to watch it.
Right.
But if it's not super graphic, I might.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll have to ask some more about it from my buddy at work. We'll see.
And Troy Holbrook, who is doing the makeup for effects and blood effects and stuff for our film Phantom Moon, really is a great talent.
Yeah.
And with the great, it's an honor that he worked on our film.
Yeah.
Those credentials.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Following in the footsteps of Tom Savini and the great
Yes,
makeup artist.
yes.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
Joe, can I bring up a couple more movies?
You sure
real
can,
quick?
yeah.
I love, this is my own top 10 here. I got it up here. Can I class up the joint with a couple? I'll play the song.
That's your
The
role.
call, yes. There's a movie here, Don't Look Now, with Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie.
Okay.
Oh, I've always read about that.
Yeah, I actually think this film has the most terrifying image I ever saw in my life. And
Really?
the end shot, I'm not going to say too much about it, but it involves the color red. The color red has been utilized quite well in cinema before. The red shoes, for instance. We've seen it in the Three Colors trilogy, red.
The
Don't
red
Look Now-
balloon.
Yes,
Yeah.
the red. Great example. Now this one, Don't Look Now, plays with that color well. It's basically about Donald Sutherland, and he's an architect. He moves into Europe, to Venice, and in the film, his daughter drowns in the beginning.
Yeah.
And he has a premonition right before she dies, and he looks out there and she drowns. There's a great shot of him saving her trying to save her in the water, but sadly she passes. You got to live with the family's trauma, the couple's trauma in this film. Meanwhile, premonitions occur again, and weird, bizarre stuff starts to happen. He's building a cathedral. He almost dies. Julie Christie's character meets these twins, very gentle, nice twins, but they have premonitions. They know something's about to go down. And Donald Sutherland's character, not to reveal anything, but the ending is just mesmerizing. Very unforgettable. Must see. Directed by Nicholas Roeg. It's so artfully made. Great. If you watch this film, you're never going to forget it.
You know, it's interesting because last year I rewatched Body Snatchers for the first time in a long time, and Donald Sutherland's
Yes,
performance in that
the
was
70.
so
Oh,
amazing
that's a
that
great
I
one.
actually looked into that film and was debating whether or not I wanted to follow
Don't
up
Look
Body
Now.
Snatchers with that. But when I read the description, I'm like,
Right.
I don't know if I can do that to myself right now. But
We also
I'll
just
probably check it out on your recommendation.
we also just talked about Invasion of the Body Snatchers on my other podcast.
Mhm.
Yes, it's a great one.
Extremely well made.
It
and
is.
it holds
Yes.
up.
Yeah,
I like the '93 version too, and I love the original.
I need to see the
Yeah.
other ones. Yeah.
yeah, and again, one of the greatest endings of all time that
Yeah.
that proved that Hollywood doesn't necessarily need to close up everything with a tidy ribbon
No.
and give it a Hollywood ending. Sometimes you can punch the viewer right in the gut and go,
Right.
take that.
That's what
And
exactly. Yeah.
that was a gut punch.
Yeah, and talk about gut punch. Let's not forget George Romero's films.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
So two things I wanted to bring up: Night of the Living Dead. I already brought up Day of the Dead, but Night of the Living Dead. My gosh, now that's one that I want to. I like to watch that on Devil's Night. Usually, I usually like to do Night of the Living Dead on Devil's Night. I do Halloween late at night. Joe, what do you think of Night of the Living Dead?
I haven't seen it in a long, long time, but again, it introduced the genre. I
Right.
mean, the zombie genre.
yeah.
Even though there had been some movies before that talked about zombies when it was more like a New Orleans sort of a zombie, where they weren't the zombie that you see on The Walking Dead today. And so it was Night of the Living Dead that introduced the world to that sort of flesh-eating, walking undead. And so, yeah, it gave, film buffs that entire genre. And
rich subtext too.
Yeah,
race relations.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he doesn't force feed it to you. He just shows it, and you know it's there, but they don't say it. A lesser film, I think Romero's brilliant with subtext. A lesser filmmaker would have crammed it down your throat.
Right.
This one he doesn't. It's very sophisticated now. It doesn't.
Yeah.
And like how he did the hyper-capitalism with or consumerism with Dawn of the Dead at the mall.
Yes. I wanted.
right.
Oh, and I just wanted to bring up the Dawn of the Dead's great. So I actually watched a video the other day. I tagged Andrew, and it's great. Romero goes back to that mall where they shot that at, and he was telling the story. He only had like 4 or 5 hours. He said, "You'd think I'd have this mall to myself, but we only had 5 hours to do this. They had
wow.
they had to take a lot of their time. They had to do a lot of shooting days because there was a bar open late at night, and on top of it, the mall was open for people to walk anytime they want to. So they had to film around that, and people were always distracting them. So it was a big challenge making that
Yeah.
film. And he says he couldn't believe that he was able to shoot. Looking back now, he said he was not going to be able to pull that off because he went back like in the mid '80s to talk about what he did in '78, and the malls got even bigger in the '80s. And he said, "There's no way I'd be able to pull this off now unless I had a bigger budget." So
Yeah.
it was just a fascinating story how he made that movie. But that, like to your point, Andrew, yeah, I think Romero is a brilliant director just because they're not just dumb zombie movies. There are so many great ideas. The subtext is so rich in that film. He's always saying something about America ahead of his time. Even his movies have timeless commentary now. I can only imagine what he would think of
Yeah.
this administration.
I know.
Yeah, right. Now, you guys got me thinking around the time of Dawn of the Dead, zombie movies were all the rage. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't looked this up on IMDb, but I believe in either the late 70s or early 80s, there was a movie called Zombie, and it had this moment that, we were going to do a podcast not too long ago where we were talking about times movies went too far, and we ended up scrapping the whole context because some movies went way too far. And I remember the discussion around this movie Zombie, how it may have crossed the line when a hand breaks through a door and like splinters the wood, and it grabs a woman by the hair and pulls her toward the splintered wood, and they graphically depict what happened to her. And that was one of the few times where I covered my face. Like, I couldn't watch that unfold on the screen. And it's got me wondering, like, have you guys ever seen a movie that you peeked at between your fingers? What immediately comes to mind that's something that was so horrific that you kind of watched the movie through the fingers of your hands?
I have to think about it.
Okay.
I have a couple.
Yeah.
Some people do consider this a horror film. I guess you can, but it's irreversible. It's directed by Gaspar Noé.
Mm-hmm.
It's backwards like Memento.
Oh, wow.
So the film starts off where these guys are getting revenge on a guy who raped his fiance,
Mm.
and it goes backwards. Monica Bellucci, from Passion of the Christ and The
beautiful
Matrix.
actress.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
she's the woman who sadly, tragically gets raped.
Wow.
It's brutal. It's probably the most horrifying scene I ever saw, and we see it, and it's all on broken take. You see the rapist
Ooh, man, that's
in that
tough.
film, and I don't want to spoil anything if anybody has not watched it. I do think it's a brilliant piece of filmmaking. It's nothing that I don't want to revisit too much because of the subject matter, but
Right.
I had to look away
Yeah.
when I first saw it. I couldn't endure it, and I was thinking to myself, please end, and I felt like I was there, like you were part of it.
Yeah.
That would be one of them. Another one I had an issue with, and I love the movie. It's another great movie, but it did pushed the boundaries was a horror film with Matt Dillon titled The House That Jack Built by Lars von Trier.
All right, I'm not familiar with that.
That one came out in 2018, and Lars von Trier is a great filmmaker. He did movies like Breaking the Waves, Melancholia, but it's about a serial killer. It's very much like Henry Portrait of the Serial Killer, and that one makes me turn the head too. But I would say those two films, there's some scenes involving kids, teenage kids, and I don't know if I agree on a moral level that kids should be in endangerment.
So, anything else you want to wrap with? We got just a couple of minutes left.
We have to. Let's end it with the Exorcist. We have to talk about the Exorcist.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, what a movie that holds up.
Oh yeah. And
that
I'm
gets under my
shocked
skin.
that we didn't bring it up yet, but in my opinion, it's the most terrifying movie I've ever seen.
It is.
And you want to hear something crazy? Again, I keep bringing up my L.A. trip from a couple of months ago, but we toured Warner Brothers, and as you exit Warner Brothers, they were getting set up for a Halloween exhibit for people visiting the studio, and they pulled out some original props from movies like Annabelle from The Conjuring and different things like that. And I was shocked to see that they had a Exorcist display set up with actual props from the movie. And one of them was a broken door from Reagan's bedroom. One of them was a statue that we see a brief glimpse of in the movie that had an enormous phallus, which I don't think we saw in the film, but I saw it in person. But the most shocking thing that they had on display, and I'm shocked that they even included it, was the actual crucifix from the film. They had it on display with these other props, and I was like, I don't know if I'm cool with that. It was so horrific. It was so horrific. But you're right. The Exorcist, in my opinion, is the scariest movie I've ever seen because of its, religious, hintings that it has. So, Andrew, you agree with that? Where would you rank The Exorcist as one of the scariest movies of all time?
I've seen it one time in college at a party, and we were all drunk. So I honestly I need to rewatch it.
That's one to watch with Ben Friend.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your opinion on it.
I do need to watch it. Yeah.
Joe, how about the old James Wells Universal pictures? Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, Bela Lugosi's Dracula.
Yeah.
All that stuff's just great. Nosferatu, F.W. Murnau, German Expressionism, all these great horrors from the 20s and 30s. It's still so championed and so watched today. We still see new Frankensteins come out, and I had to go back and revisit the old ones.
Yeah. Of those movies, for reasons I can't explain, probably my personal favorite of all those 30s, 40s, 50s Universal monster movies, I love Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh, I just watched that again the other day.
Yeah,
oh my gosh,
it's
how'd
right
they film
up
some of
there.
that stuff?
Yeah,
the underwater. I still think that underwater photography is some of the greatest ever filmed.
Well, it's funny you say that because I just saw a video on TikTok. There's a place near Porter Ranch, California, called the Corriganville. It's where they shot a lot of westerns and stuff. And as you walk around Corriganville, which is just a ghost town compared to what they used to do there, you find this like enclosed pool almost with these white walls, and there's these windows every couple of feet. And supposedly that's where they filmed the Creature for the Black Lagoon's underwater scenes. Is the camera was able to put the lens up against one of these windows, and the actors would frolic in that pool. And so it was really cool to see that up
That's
close
awesome.
and go, this is where they filmed Creature from the Black
great.
Lagoon. And I wanted to see some of the other ones that have eluded me for one reason or another. But like I recently watched The Mummy, which was outstanding. One of the best Universal monster movies I've seen. And I also recently watched The Invisible Man with Claude Rains.
Oh.
And even though he only appears briefly in the film, most of it obviously is voiceover, Claude Rains was brilliant in that film, and it was a lot of fun.
It was.
So, yeah, I like when a movie takes the concept of invisibility and has fun with it versus a movie that had Kevin Bacon in it.
Hollow Man.
What was it called?
Hollow Man. Yeah.
Where it was just, I thought that was a nasty, ugly movie that just should have been a lot more fun than it was, and they just kind of went the dark road in that. But Robert, thanks for joining us again.
Yes, thank
Andrew,
you.
Great seeing you again, and we'll see you again in a couple of weeks.
Come to the movies, watch Charlie Chaplin and put some sunshine into your day. Forget the hard times, come to the movies and try to laugh your troubles away.